Welcome, welcome everyone. So glad you're here. And so I see are we figuring out the conversation starter?
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Do we have any thoughts? What does a school where teachers see themselves as leaders look like, sound like, feel like? And so our outcome for today is that I hope that we're able to align your school's value system with the opportunities for your teachers to be successful. And really starting there is a foundational piece, because most of our schools have values, have mission statement, have pillars that drive the students, and even sometimes drive how we interact with communities. But how do we look at using those values, mission, and pillars to support how we work with our teachers? From there, we'll identify skills that really support your different teachers' pathways to leveraging those leadership opportunities in the building. And the thought there is that will not only ignite the teacher to see themselves as a leader, but to support administration with the heavy workload that they carry day to day. And then the final option is that we're going to go through equipping teachers with real strategies and tangible ways that they can lead in the classroom. Some are going to be those tried and true ones that we know about, but to also get creative and think of other ways that teachers can lead. I was listening to Gus on the panel and I was like, yes. I wanted to snap really loud, but I was like, the green is enough commotion. So I didn't want to like thumbs up and do a high five, but some of the things that you were sharing about the leadership cause that you all are creating has already got the conversation started for what we're going to talk about today. And so, what's the benefit of our teachers developing as leaders? And that takes us to our conversation starter. Ginger, can you read us what's the general theme for what the school will feel like?
Good and supportive. I said energetic because everyone is acting out of their strengths. People feel valued and have ownership. Supportive. People are taking pride in their place, their place within the organization.
I love that.
Vibes are good.
Good vibes. Yeah. Yes, good vibes. Ari, can you do the sound like for us?
Sure. So, sounds like teacher voices solicited and acted upon. Meetings are more collaborative and teacher voices amplified. Sharing of ideas openly, speaking up. Equity of voice among teachers and those in defined leadership roles, and sharing of ideas.
Love that, yes. Mona, can you do our last one for us to look like?
Sure.
I promise this other table, I'm not just leaving y'all out, but they're so close that I just want to make it easy for us today.
Look like teacher-led actions and incentives, cross-functional collaboration, take the limits off, not passively watching the ship sink. Ideas, opinions, feedback has a way to be heard systematically. Teachers and leaders are frequently working together in conversation, and there's evidence of lots of collaboration. Decisions are influenced by teachers and are implemented and supported by building leaders. And then problem solvers, there's risk takers and collaborators.
See, I love that, which is why I implemented the conversation starts, because I was like, you all already know what you want your buildings to sound like, and you seeing your teachers as leaders. These are just 4 that I came up with, but I already knew that you all have hit on every single one of them, cultivating that sense of belonging and community inside the school. Students, right? So when teachers see themselves as leaders, it automatically translates to the students that we support. And if we want to be truly holistic, right, then how can that translate to the parents that support our students each and every day? It begins to build trust between teacher and administration, particularly when we have to have those hard and tough conversations. When we have that trust as the foundation, then we're able to kind of have that dialogue. And then finally, to foster great opportunity for growth and development, right? So sometimes we have to go through the experience of reflecting back, how can I adjust, where were my wins? And then now let's talk about those opportunities and create that path forward. So you all already see what's the benefit for us to really spend time devoted to the development of our teachers as leaders holistically in the school building. And so for today, for the sake of today, I've broken our work and our time together into 3 parts, with starting with aligning the values and vision and mission of your school. Then from there, transitioning to how to identify strengths and opportunities, and then finally, the equipping opportunities. So let's kick off with the alignment part. You all already have values and missions at your school. What are they? I know a few schools where you are, but I don't know everybody's school. But what is your values or mission statement that you all have or focus on?
Well, our school is Memphis Business Academy, so in just some words I can throw out like entrepreneurship, community leading, students who value themselves and value others, and
Yeah, so we actually went through a process this past year of kind of rethinking mission, vision, and language.
Yeah.
And the kind of headline version of it that we came up with is that we are rethinking high school by advancing equity, building community, and doing meaningful work so that every learner can thrive. And we specifically said learner rather than student because we definitely see all the adults in our building as learners as well. But really kind of focusing on how, the how we're going to do that is the advancing equity, building community, and doing meaningful work.
Yeah, see, and I love that already making the intentional shift so that the vision and mission of the school is inclusive of our teachers. Because
Absolutely.
they're a big driver, right? We can have kids, we can have admin,
Yeah.
who are on the boots folks,
Yeah.
our teachers. So I love that. Anybody from this table, even if it's just like informal, kind of what your values, missions are.
Our school's mission statement centers around preparing students to pursue ambitious goals.
Mm.
And so we also have like 5 core values in the way that many charters do, where they spell out order and it's reach, and one in the middle is A for ambition. So that's a big sort of like pivot point around which much of our program exists.
Yeah, I love that. And so then we have the values at our school. Many of you already shared that they're inclusive of your teachers, but how? What are the opportunities that are already happening? How are teachers leading in your building? I have a few up there. It's a struggle. Do you have teachers doing the morning and afternoon announcements? Do y'all have a newsletter? Is the principal or the vice principal the owner of it? Could it be a teacher? Is there an opportunity to do celebratory announcements? What's already happening?
well, we have I work with pre-K teachers now, and we have teachers who are like the point person for the Department of Education, which is really cool because I didn't understand all that paperwork.
Yeah.
They've been doing it for like 90 years. I'm like, I got it. And they got it, really well. So they're leading in the liaison between the school and the department.
Yeah. And was it that teacher's idea?
It was.
Yeah. So it wasn't like I would say a top-down approach of putting in teacher and leadership. It was about
It
us.
was, this is what they're asking for, here it is.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm like, we got other campuses. Okay. So,
They'll say we'll take it.
yeah, she's like, I got it.
Question, is that indicative of that teacher's personality?
I think she's, yes, but also she's invested.
Yeah.
She's very invested.
I love that. I love that.
Me too.
I was asking those questions because y'all know we're going somewhere. What about the other ones? Grade level chairs, content team leads.
At the Spotlight Schools for Real, we have content ambassadors.
Okay.
So we have, of course, an ELA lead, a math lead, a STEM lead, humanities lead, but we also have a STEL lead. That's one of our STEL, social emotional learning. Because that is one of our core tenets, one of our pieces that make us unique. So we have content leads, ambassadors, call them ambassadors, because that's what we kind of anticipate and expect them to do, kind of hold up the banner for their areas.
Yeah.
One of the things that has also kind of organically grown out is we have one of our kindergarten teachers. She's very, very active on social media, and so she can kind of start posting things, so we're like, okay, you want to post stuff out here? Here you go. You get her access to our social media account. So she kind of took the lead on that, and she made just a little folder in our Google Drive where teachers, as things are happening in your class, can take pictures, take videos, drop them in here. So she has kind of organically made her own community.
I love that, right? And so in your example, Ms. Martin, that's a bottom-up approach again, right? So a teacher found joy doing a skill set, taking us somewhere, right, that she already had, began to do it. Administration enjoyed it, and then kind of opened the doors and says, go forth and be great, and let us know what supports you need that. Yeah. Any others you want to mention?
It's not an idea, it's just more of an aha moment, because sometimes when I think about teacher leadership, I think about like a role, not necessarily like these different actions. Some teachers want leadership, but not that full comprehensive leadership, so even being mindful and reflective of life, thinking about your vision or your values, even providing some examples, just general examples of how you can lead in these small pockets of ways that's still supporting the school community versus, and in addition to the content leads or the all the technical terms for different leadership roles. So this may be.
Here, Ms. Mona, here you go. Just click through. Just click through. You got it. You got it. Because that's exactly correct, right? So the first thought is thinking that we stop, and we take this reflective time of looking at what's important about your school, and now what does it mean to start embedding teachers based off those values. Ms. Mona is exactly perfect, so you can have it, because what are the opportunities? How do you categorize the buckets? And let's think not so formally. We have those formal that we just talked through, grade level chair, content teams. I'm going to give a little bit of away. Even extracurricular, Gus said on the panel, the cheer coach, the basketball coach, you are the, what is it called? The athletic director. You know, I was the athletic director because I was the cheer coach. Ms. Martin knows, and they thought I was organized. Oh, Ms. Bridget, we need you to go to all the meetings, keep all the kids, the physicals, call all the parents, because it was happening already, right? So again, another example of a bottom-up approach. But what if the leadership, right? Because we meet with our principals and we have our assistant principals who are assigned to the different grades. What if they met with me and said, hey, Ms. Sisney, what are some of your skills? Are some of your skills organization? Are some of your skills you like to kind of be behind the scenes but making sure everyone's safe? Like, is safety important to you? Hey, based on the skills that you have and we've identified together, maybe you'd be great at this category of work. Meaning, not necessarily continuing to be the cheer coach, but could you be the person who goes to our meetings for us? Could you be the person that when there's an accident, you have the paperwork and the phone numbers and the first aid kit to support safety? Because that's what's important to you, and those are the skills that we've identified you have. Right? So what if we do that at the beginning of the year, or even at the end of the year as a closeout? As a principal, as a leader, we forecast forward to think, hey, let's close out. We're gonna make sure your scores are right, and you got your fives, and you know your kids are growing. And then, what do you want to grow in? What do you want to develop in? So let's talk through that. What are some of those buckets? So I've already said extracurriculars. I gave one away. What are some other ones?
Staff culture.
Come on now. Yes, I love that. Remind me your name.
Joe.
Joe. Okay, I try to be really good with names. Thanks, Joe. Another one.
Testing, kind of like helping to some people like this.
Okay, yes, good. Shout out to Steve.
Some people are like this.
Yeah.
People that like that, they are so useful, and they like. I love people like this. I'm not.
Yeah. What is so? They like order.
It's just
Like
operation.
I love it when people tell my power
Goes there.
Keep going. 3, 2 more. I think we can do it. I believe in our group. So
Partnership. What about partnerships?
okay. Yes, that for sure is one, right? Community partnerships. What about the one we've already talked about? Student culture. You know, we talk a lot about student culture. I know it's like our focus because the people, the little, the medium, the tall people, they're all in front of us. And that's like our immediate thing, right? So a group of folks that are dedicated, that have that skill, you know, there's certain people that can talk to Mario, go see Miss Robinson, you know, because you and Mario have a connection. That's student culture, right? And so these are the ones I came up with, you all. And to your point, we talked through, when we were trying to create this session for you all, we talked through the yes or the not to put in external community partnerships, but it definitely is a category, right? Just for the sake of where we're going, we didn't add it, but it completely is relevant and needed. So we talked through student culture, academics, extracurricular, staff culture, sometimes falls by the wayside, and then tech and logistics, right? That behind the scenes, that organizer. I see a hand, looks like
No,
No,
that's something's on my mind, really, because it's really about,
Yeah.
really wanting to have a voice in different ways and getting to say, but I also think about parent engagement. I know a teacher brought up, we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago about how a strategy to get more parents involved, but not thinking, we didn't think that, a teacher can handle it. It was always thought that leadership has to be the ones that really have to pull parents in, but for the teacher to bring that up as a conversation, I think that's important too.
Yeah, and I love that, and so parent engagement for sure. So we've added 5 to 7, right? So we've added parent engagement and we've added community partnerships, and particularly with the parent engagement, you all, let's just deviate. Y'all can tell how I was as a teacher. A child asks a good question, off. We always come back around, but off. But the parent engagement one, maybe there's a teacher in the building who's really strong with her parent engagement. Maybe she has or he has a system of how they operate their parent engagement strategy. Maybe they do a newsletter, maybe they do a weekly send out to remind families at home about quizzes and things. So what would it be like for that teacher to then support the other teachers who may be struggling, who may still be trying to figure out what's the best system for them, right? Because not to say that there has to be a one way that we engage with parents in a school building, but if Ms. Robinson's really strong and really creative in how they're handling it, then maybe they have ideas that can be beneficial to the rest of the building, right? So when we think about how these buckets can operate, it doesn't always have to be externally facing. That the person who's over parent engagement is the one talking to all the parents. That's a lot of work. That's an entire job function, as you have pay. But what if it's we do a support tip at monthly staff meeting around how to be supportive, better engaged with our parents. And that teacher who does a great job of it is the one who gives that tip. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, to give those strategies. So these are some of the buckets that we've identified. And so based on those buckets, I've created just a few examples, but what I want us to really dig in is what are other ones? What are ones that make sense, that are relevant to your school? And then what are some that maybe are missing? So we already identified the parent engagement, and we also identified the community partners. So just taking us through, I don't know if it's small, you all from back there, but we talked about student culture, a positive behavior intervention support team. Is that team only made up of administrators? If so, maybe there's an opportunity to add in teachers. Thinking about birthdays of students. I will be honest with you all, I missed it. I missed it every time. They came and they would tell me and I would hug and we would be cheer, but I missed it. I missed it every time, Could there be a teacher from each grade level who has the birthdays of all the students? And together, they come together, those 3 or 4, depending on how many grades are in your building, come together and have a list. And they work together to make sure that we celebrate all of our students. Just a simple happy, sticker on a wall, a star on a newsletter, something, right? And then in-school activities. So we know the assemblies come and the opportunities to bring in visitors to classroom to talk to students about real-world application of what they're learning. Can that be a committee? Can that be an opportunity for students to work collaboratively maybe? Is there opportunity for teachers to take over that? And then maybe they report, hey, this is who we want to have come and talk to the students this month. So that the administration is still deeply rooted on what's happening, what's going, but it's not on the work of the administrator or the grade level chair to find the speaker of the month for 4th grade. It's not your role. No. We have a team to do that. And they'll just report it to us. And so the same thing with academics. These are the tried and truths we know. Grade, team, even cross-collaboration. We all have cross-collaboration meetings happening already. Honestly, I got all the best tips from the English teacher.
It was awesome in science class. I'm like, y'all remember this system? Yes, because why? Ms. Bird taught you. And thinking extracurriculars, what about school newsletter? Ms. Martin shared about the social media, I tried to skim through and kind of look through some of our social medias in the city for our charters. Some are like popping, something's every 2 days. Others, not so much. It's okay, right? But how is that? Because is that work on the principal? Is that work on the assistant principal to manage that of how we share the good news, how we share the learning? With so much feedback and so many opinions about how our charters run and how they operate. How are we using that external connection to celebrate, right? And to engage greater interests. So that's an option. And then just thinking through what are the clubs, the sign-ups, and opportunities to showcase. So again, more opportunities to show and see. And just remember that work doesn't have to live one year. And then we talk about staff cultures, and it's not that we talk about student cultures. How are personal announcements and recognitions being shared out at your school? So if, I just got my master's from Christian Brothers, and I just walked down the hallway telling y'all, I graduated Saturday. Isn't that an opportunity to foster that trust, to build that community across the school? If we were intentional and maybe had a way to say, hey, if you have good news happening, we have a Google Doc where you go in and you share your good news, and there are a team of teachers that check that once a week to share out the good news at staff meeting, right? Or send it in the staff email. So making a system or a framework for work, right? If we have a person who's really organized and a tech person, they might not be the one that wants to share out the good news that staff is happening, but they for sure will be your person that will make the Google form and would be organized enough to check it weekly. So you don't have to do anything, because they're going to make it for you and they're going to keep the system moving, right? Because that's their skill set. That's what they're good at. And then the last one is thinking through just technology. How-to guides. I never knew how to work anything in my school. I did not know. But you know what? I knew the 8th grade teachers did. They were awesome. I don't know how their classrooms were magical tech wonders. And we were very sticky notes. And let's make and let's do on the 6th grade hall. But I would go over every lunch break, every planning period, and try to learn a new skill, a new strategy. That's another opportunity for maybe behind the scenes to create role, right? To have that how-to guide for whatever those steps are. These are the examples of how leadership opportunities can develop in your school, because if you're a school leader, new or veteran school leader, you may be wondering, I have Ms. Robinson and Mr. Robinson who is awesome and great, but I don't know what they can do, right? This is that example of, here are options of things that you can give your teacher leaders to do, to give them that opportunity with compensation and framework, always, right? But before, I would say after, because we're still aligning. After you identify where are the spaces to lead, the next step is figuring out what are the skills you have in your building. Meaning, what are the skills that your teachers possess? So that's exactly what you're going to get to do as pretend teachers that you once were. So I like to take people through what we call a skills inventory list. And the skills inventory list, this is something that you can do with your teachers again, particularly at those benchmark times. So at the end of the year, but also at the beginning of the year to identify their skills. So this could look like in a one-on-one meeting. This could also be happening whole group. That could be an exercise you all do collaboratively. And I'll walk us through the 2 different ways to do it. If it's one-on-one, but also if it's whole group. So everyone's getting a skills inventory list, and we're going to take 3 minutes, you all, you're welcome, to look over the skills inventory list, and I want you to circle 10 skills that you possess. The timer is going. 10 skills, yes, that you possess. Just one side, yeah. those top 10 skills. Minute and a half. Y'all know I'm on teacher time. Y'all know how teachers tell time. We look at your students. Okay, now last 20 seconds. Have your 10. Okay, do we have our 10 skills? So remember, these are your strengths. You self-identified these strengths, right? Now you have 1 minute to narrow it down to 5. John, that face. You can do
barely
this.
got through my list, so
You can do this.
I appreciate the confidence.
Twenty seconds. You can do it. And finally, from your top 5, last thing, you have 30 seconds, top 3. Fifteen seconds, top 3. Okay, now at your table, share and tell why are those your top 3? What is the evidence that you have that those are your top 3 strengths?
So let's go ahead and come back together. Seem like y'all needed both at the exact same time, so I love that. So thinking through how this was one, very quick. This was not an hour-long thing that we had to do. But how could you see this working to create a top-down approach with identifying your teacher's skills and the evidence that supports that that's their skill of strength?
I think one thing, a lot of times when people have a gift or a strength, they don't recognize it as a gift because it comes so naturally to them that they just maybe assume that everybody else is good at that thing too. And so like, even handing somebody a list like this and being like, hey, not everybody's good at building teams and alliances, but if you are, like we want to use that. And just giving people the opportunity to think about what those gifts and strengths are and how they might match up with maybe gaps in the organization. We at Crosstown, we haven't used like a list like this, although I like that. But like we do every year, we do like we call our winter check-in, where we're like, how do you like what gaps do you see that you have skills or strengths that you can fill? And people like it's easier for people to lead out of those strengths than out of than for me to try to do something that like I'm not gifted at. So, and I think that speaks to like Taylor's question earlier. Like, yes, they still need to be, compensated and given time for those things, but it's also not going to take them as much time for compensation sometimes to do it because it's something they're good at and they love doing. Yes, exactly. They're already doing it.
Exactly. I just wanted to add, I think this is, putting this in front of people is so powerful because a lot of times we make assumptions about what we think people are good at. But how many times do you actually ask somebody, what are you actually good at? In my winter check-ins, one of the questions that I ask staff is, what are you interested in, or give them a skill that we haven't asked them to do.
Exactly.
And it's always mind blowing, the things like, I had no idea that you enjoy baking and you want to have a culinary club in the school. I had no idea. So, I think doing something like this gives an opportunity to stop making assumptions about what people are good at or what they want to do. Just ask them. I love that.
Yeah, I also thought about what you're thinking about. Teachers may not know that they're gifted in this area, but also making the connection of like, how does my skill fit into the school? So for me, I'm thinking about like, if I were a teacher and one of my things was learning by doing, I wouldn't know having the skill of learning by doing. What does that look like in leadership within the school? Is it X? Is it Y? So even add on the layer of like, if you have a great skill of, I don't know, monitoring progress, these are the different things within the school that really needs that skill to kind of support that, because I would naturally just say, oh, okay, well, this is what I'm good at. I'll just keep to myself and not know that these are some things that's value to the school if I don't know what it is. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
What I saw in here, what I saw proof that some of the stuff people probably didn't realize was again.
Exactly.
And I was like the fact that demonstrating Taylor values is even on here. I feel like that's I know it's my gift. But I know it's gift.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's okay, it must be, and I think it's empowering.
Yeah, it is. And I love y'all because y'all confirmed this whole session and, it's just wonderful. And so I'm going to give you, and let's take the conversation a little bit further. So I'm going to give you, because each of these areas are categories. And they're not, to your point, the common categories that we always think of as teacher skills, right? Or to your point that there might not even be skills. So look at the headings, and I intentionally actually gave you all the one with all the headings removed so that we could just release the bias, right? But do you have teachers in your building that fit these categories? Are these categories important to run that amazing school that looks, sounds, and feels like what we identified? The vibes have to be good. I think we might need someone with some artistic skills if we're gonna cultivate vibes at school, right? I think that may be something important, but we don't oftentimes ask if we're doing an interview, saying, right? If we do an interview and say, hey, you have artistic pride because we want to cultivate vibes in our school. You know, sometimes it comes out and we may make that connection like we share organically. But what if the leader is already thinking through, these are some of the skills that we need in our school building. And on the other side of that, with the current staff, these are the skills that we already have, right? If we put this in front of your team, do you think that all of your teachers could circle something? Could they find 3 things off of here that are skills? Would they all be the same 3 things? No, right? And so this was something then that you had when you looked at your staff to say, these are the skills of my building. Self-identified. And I want to pause on the self-identified part because that's the power that your teachers are saying I'm good at this. You know, I can't tell you all, count on fingers and toes, how many times people saw a skill in me and they wanted me to do it, but it wasn't the skill I identified as my strength. I could do it, you could pay me, I don't fuss or complain a lot, so fine. But going back to our checklist, I'm not really feeling the value. I don't really feel like I belong because I'm doing good work, but I'm not doing the work I want to do. I'm not using the skills I want to use that are innate, that are natural, that will take me 5 minutes to do. I will whip you up a Google form. Which one to say? You want pictures? How many? You want to use a Likert scale? Would you like to have open-ended? Like, that's my jam. Versus anyone else struggling and spending hours of their planning period doing it. You, Mrs. Sisney, can you do? You be done. Sure, right? And so we just went through that on the strength side. I know we want to talk positive and keep things positive, but there are always areas of opportunity to grow. If you notice at the bottom right, there's a little star, that's a 5-point star, and then you look over here, 6-point star, because this can go both ways. So imagine if we went through that short little 5-minute opportunity, or excuse me, that 5-minute cycle to say, what are the 10 areas you want to improve? Take 3 minutes and start with things you want to improve. Because as you were looking at that list, I know you are internally saying, that's not me. That's not me. Oh no, I don't have that skill. Did y'all think through it and skip out? Like, oh no, I skipped all of the ones, right? Because that's not your thing. But maybe that's an area you want to improve in. So knowing that we started off with doing this short cycle for your strengths, but doing it for your areas of opportunity. What would that be if you take a look back at the areas of opportunity and saying, I see this teacher, her areas of opportunity. I see this teacher, this is their strength, right? And that takes us to what does it look like to create a pathway? Skip the slide. Pause. We're going to get to the pathway. But let's pause here on the ways to use the skills inventory. So I just jumped the gun a little bit and told us about this could be ways that we ask for support and that we uncover areas of opportunities. But obviously, we identify our strengths from here. And the second part of that is, this is how we get the conversation started. This is how the collaboration happens. Because in sharing your evidence, you all found alignment. I was listening to Ms. Martin. What you shared first, Ms. Martin said, those are mine too. Now how more amped are you all to work together? If you were on 2 different hallways and didn't really interact with each other, but you saw someone who had now a similar skill that you have. And now the flip side of that is, that's your skill, that's my area of opportunity. Hey, come in my classroom, I can give you some tips and some pointers on that. Right? That's organic, that's already happening. People in your room up in your building are already talking and doing that. Versus now having a support system that's been self-identified by the teacher, that's aligned to your mission and values that are happening in your school building already. And now, hey, when winter check-in comes, hey, let's check in on that, right? It's not a I got you type thing, but it's a hey, I'm just wondering, I'm just here to support. I see you are doing great. I see you improving in your identified area. So knowing that those are ways to then continue using your skills inventory. But now to the sample teacher development pathway. So let's say you identify a time when you want to do your pathway. End of year, winter checkpoint, beginning of year. Everyone can do it, break it up. You know, there's so many different ways that it can be implemented. From there, then identifying the focus area. If you want your building to just focus on strengths and then leveraging those as opportunities. If you're interested in doing both, So each teacher identifies what are their top 3 strengths and what are their top 3 areas of opportunity. So it's a little bit more managing. So I don't know who holds that team, but there will be a little bit more management on their side, but it can certainly happen, right? And we did 3 for this sake of opportunity. But what if it went 10, 5, 2, so that it's not overwhelming to you, it's not overwhelming to the people that support your teachers or to the teacher themselves, right? So knowing that this can be scaled down to be what fits your needs. And then from there, if this is a new leader, I added in the shadow an established leader. But if they're already an established leader, then how can they then reach back to support someone? This is the step to Taylor's point. If we're here, right, and they are an established leader, willing and opening to the mentorship process, stipend. All caps, stipend, one more time, right? Because that's a major load. And it speaks to the trust that you have for that leader to then be the point person to help the maybe up and coming teacher in their area of opportunity. And vice versa, right? Because we have new teachers that are rock stars. Like I don't believe in a one directional way for our teachers. And then from there, are they able to join a team, a group, or a committee? Based on Ms. Warren's example, should a group, team, or committee be formed based on the skills that your teachers have? Because maybe there is a blind spot that's there. And so now once you see these skills, it lets you know, hey, there's something that we need to create because all of our teachers don't feel like leaders. If you look at what you already have and someone's excluded, don't keep going. Like stop, pause, and think of a way to figure out what is something that they can do that they want to do. And so that could be you and your fusion team coming up with that, or that could be a simple conversation with that teacher. So I really didn't want to do that one. And then 5, the fifth, the big one, is to lead a project. I think this also speaks to the stipend piece, right? If I'm the cheer coach, if I'm the leader of the PBIS team, what are the frameworks for me to succeed in that way? Any questions, thoughts here? Do you feel like went too fast? Would this be a fast jump? Is this already happening? Informal.
Isolated cases. Yeah.
Oh, isolated, informal, kind of. What do you think is the why behind that? Is it a time piece? Is it an interest? It's always time, right? The forever fleeting golden star. Is it time? Is it interest? Because I know a lot of our examples we shared out today were bottom up interest. So do you think it's just maybe teacher interest is why only certain teachers are kind of moving through this and others aren't?
I think it's a mix of things for us at least. Part of it is that we don't have like a system to inventory skills and provide an outlet for them to implement them. But then part of it is like some teachers who have like a strong voice in the school will make their skills known and like
I'm doing it, and you gonna let me do it because I'm a teacher. And y'all said,
it's like I had a great idea for like a winter event that didn't happen last year. It's like great, like go for it.
Mr. Joe, this is what I'm doing, and you're gonna let me do it, please. Yeah, I might have been one of those teachers.
That's great.
Might have been, okay. And so let's talk through then, what are solutions? How could a system be put into place so that it is spread more even?
We could provide people time to identify
Yes.
and like have that be heard. Right?
Yeah, okay. So create an intentional time to go through a skills inventory, to capture it, right, somewhere, and then whoever is the manager or lead for that teacher or group of teacher has check-ins, right? Whether it's a quarterly check-in, whether it's check-in after evaluation time, or if it's based on end-of-year assessments. Like, it could follow the same path as students, right? When you check in with students, or check in about students.
I think there is a system in place, but the questions on the mid-year check-ins are more of like, where you see yourself in 5 years. Do you need some support? It's open-ended, let's just say that. And oftentimes with open-ended questions, you may know, but you may not know. So I feel like even starting off with this inventory just at least begins to bring the language out of the thoughts, like, okay, these are things I never really thought about, and then you can use that as like a precursor to the follow-up overall, broad questions to kind of help guide teachers and their thoughts and conversations about it. I think the system kind of needs to be tweaked where it's more like, how do we give this tool, the skills inventory list ahead of time so people can reflect on that and then come and say, okay, well, I'm interested in these things as a result of the skills I identified.
I love that, and even like to your point, like teaming people up, coming into the check-in, maybe even giving them this as pre-work and then saying, giving the 2 follow-up questions so they come prepared, so it's not
Yeah, I love that. I love both of those. I will say, the only thing I would think of is maybe give people time constraints, because I'm just thinking about the different types of learners that we are as adults. This could overwhelm somebody if I give it to you and you gotta read it all overnight, type of thing, which is why I kept our time short, so that you could skim and see what's there, and then you have a second time to skim it in, and then a third time to skim it in. Versus someone can say, oh, they all are, I can do all of these, Mr. Instructor, all of them. Or the reverse and say none of these, right? Because we psyched ourselves out, which is kind of particularly the thing we do. Some people are glass half full, some people are glass half empty type of people. And if they're reading and identifying it as it relates to themselves, we're our biggest critics, that you could get stuck. You don't want people to get stuck doing this. So maybe give them some time constraints from there. And these you all are, as we begin to close up and wrap up, these are 3 reflective questions from each of the places we've gone from. And so remember, we started out at that alignment piece and asking ourselves, are you aligned with your school's values and mission statement? What are they? We went around the room and we shared what those are. And now begin to think, what does that look like for your teachers? Doesn't have to be a big formal thing. Remember, just very informal. We see ourselves as leaders. We're equity minded. And so thinking now, moving to the identify piece. Have you identified where teachers can meet? Just where? What are the places? What do you want to be true that's missing? If it's the social media piece, if it's the parent engagement, right? If it's the staff birthdays, small, manageable tasks that teachers can take on, that teachers can be proud of themselves for doing and executing, and does it bring your school closer together? If it's working, it's more separate tasks, let's find something else, right? And then the following, last question, how are you equipping your teachers with those opportunities to lead? So they're aligned, you identified them, how? And that's from here, right? So letting your teacher tell you what their strength is, and then create that framework, let them go. So if it's the stipend, if it's I need 30 minutes once a week to spend my energy on this, can we make that happen in the school building? So that the teacher can do the thing that is positive, that is beneficial for your school, right? And so lastly, remembering why it's important, taking us back to our conversation starter. We want that school where teachers see themselves as leaders. We want the school where we have that sense of community and belonging. We want the school where there is trust between our teachers and our administration. And so creating this intentional time to reflect, identify, and equip could get us closer to this, right? To create a more realistic version of this, where teachers are the leaders. And so that's going to close us out. Thank you all so much for doing this with me. Appreciate y'all.